Arsenal 5, Leeds 0. It was a simple game yesterday for the Gunners, but it's always good to score a lot of goals in front of your home crowd. It's especially good to do it after announcing a new £67 million signing that you've literally just snatched from your arch rivals. We're going to talk all the positives, and at the end, we're going to come on to two very big negatives, unfortunately. This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Yes, hello and welcome back. This is Arsenal Unfiltered, the Arsenal podcast that comes to you 3 times a week. I am your host, Mark, and welcome. If you are new here, if you are a returning listener, welcome back. So much to talk about that happened yesterday afternoon. Like I said, Arsenal 5, Leeds 0. Eberechi Eze signs for the Arsenal. Victor Gyokeres, the new superstar, gets off the mark. Bukayo Saka starts his goal scoring for the season. Max Dowman gets a debut and has a telling contribution in his debut. But then 2 big injuries as well, with horrible flashbacks of last season starting to come back already, even though we're only 2 games in. So a real mix of things to go through and so much to go through. I'm going to try and cover it all in the usual sort of 20 to 30 minute spell that we do, but I do apologise if I miss anything, but I will do my very, very best. Before I get started, if you have ever listened to Arsenal Unfiltered and you haven't hit the follow button, please make sure you go and do it. And if you're new here and you want kind of a free Arsenal podcast straight to your podcast provider of choice 3 times a week, go and hit the follow button as well. It really, really helps, and it will make sure that you never miss a beat on Arsenal news, Arsenal games, all of that sort of stuff. So let's get into it. And before the game even started, the Emirates was on its feet, as loud as it can be. It really was a fantastic way for Arsenal to do this. They waited until 5 o'clock to announce Eberechi Eze. We've seen a lot of the pictures out now on like social media and stuff. It looks like Eze had been to the training ground earlier in the day, maybe even the day before, with Arteta and Berta to formally sign his contract and presumably do his medical and all of that sort of stuff. So that was all done, and they waited till 5 o'clock to announce this 30 minutes before the kickoff at the game. And out he came, out he walked with the coolest walkout you will ever see. He looked kind of confident, and he had this swagger about him, but then also he had that cheeky look over his right shoulder to look back at the crowd and almost this disbelief. It was the international superstar that we know Eberechi Eze is, who was walking out with confidence and swagger and knows he belongs on the big stage. But I think you could see in that walkout the glimmer of the little boy who was let go from Arsenal at 13, who had given up on his dream. And it came out later. James McNicholas reported, and Arteta kind of confirmed it in his questioning. I don't think it was his post-match press conference, but I think there was a question posed to him. Is it true? Is it true that Eberechi Eze called you before he was going to sign for Tottenham? And he did not deny it. Arteta didn't confirm it, but he didn't deny it. And obviously James McNicholas reports that Eze called Arteta before he was going to sign for Tottenham just to make sure that Arsenal were definitely not in for him. Fantastic timing from him to call just after the Kai Havertz injury, and also fantastic timing to call just before the Odegaard injury and the Saka injury. I'm going to talk about them, like I said, towards the end of the podcast, so we can get through all the fun stuff and then and talk about the injuries at the end. So what a way to start the afternoon and the evening, bringing Eze out. They kept panning to him in the crowd on TV here in the UK, and I'm so excited by that signing for so many reasons. 1, because we're going to need him now because of the injuries, but 2, because of I think it just felt like the final superstar piece in our puzzle. There is a world now where Gabriel Martinelli, who we have seen for 3.5 seasons, really hold down that left wing spot. There's a world where he's 3rd or 4th choice in that spot now. And we all have problems with Gabriel Martinelli, but if he is your 3rd or 4th choice, you are in a wonderful place. We have Martin Odegaard and Eberechi Eze, as our really creative options. We have Eze, Saka, Gyokeres up front. We can throw Madueke in there. We've gone from a team who had such limited options to in this transfer window. really maximising our options. You've got to say Zubimendi feels like a fantastic acquisition from his performance in the last game and some of the things we've seen from him in pre-season. But to add Madueke, Gyokeres and Eze now to that forward line, the attacking players, feels unbelievable, doesn't it? You know, we've not lost anyone as well. That's not replacing players. That is in addition to. So that set the Emirates alight. And, you know, we didn't really get into the game in a way that kind of represented that atmosphere, I don't think. The first 30 minutes, I mean, we started really well. Madueke was involved a lot down the left in the early phases. He obviously started on the left. Let's quickly run through the lineup, actually. That would be a good thing to do. Raya in goal. Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and it was Calafiori again. Really liking this Calafiori at left back. I'll come on to that. Rice, Zubimendi, Odegaard in midfield. Saka, Gyokeres, Madueke on the left. So, quite rightly, everyone was sort of looking at Madueke, and I think he started brightly, but started to fade as that first 30 minutes went on, and we got a little bit Arsenal. Let's be honest, a little bit cautious, safe. The first 5 minutes were great, but we started to see a lot of that shoehorn football start to develop, and there were a couple of moments. I'm not sure I agreed with the commentators in the UK where they were saying you've got to fire the ball into there, and honestly, there were times where Gary Neville said it at one point. Odegaard has to fire the ball into Zubimendi. Zubimendi was surrounded by 4 Leeds players. I got his sentiment that Arsenal needs to be a bit more, aggressive and play the ball forward a little bit more and be a bit more risky. But actually, it wasn't a case that we were trying to control it, and when we weren't able to control it, we were getting countered on. Leeds had that big chance from a header, but apart from that, they really weren't able to offer anything. They weren't able to launch the ball forward into their front three because, again, Saliba and Gabriel were just superb, weren't they? Not letting a thing past them. Really gave the Leeds front three nothing to feed on. Absolutely nothing. The corner really was it. And, we were very, very good at recovering the ball. A couple of times Rice did a really good job. Zubimendi did a really good job of recovering the ball. And obviously that combination led to the Bukayo Saka goal, so that was really good. It was a bit stale, but we weren't really under threat. But Old Faithful came out for us. The first corner, it's not the first corner that we had, but the first goal from a corner, I should say, because we obviously got 2. Came on the 34th minute. Jurrien Timber, what a day. I mean, he had a fantastic, fantastic time just feeding off Declan Rice's delivery. I mean, the corners, you can talk about Nicolas Jova and you talk about the systems, and we're clearly doing some slightly different things on corners that I haven't quite worked out this year. And look, we will get to know them more and more as the season grows. But Declan Rice's delivery, it doesn't matter. It does not matter what you do in that penalty area if the delivery is not brilliant, and he is absolutely nailing it at the moment. I think he has really elevated it. And to be honest, all we'd created up until that point was kind of a drag shot for Martin Odegaard. Again, we were kind of struggling to get Gyokeres into the game, struggling to link up through our front three. Leeds looked like they were doing a fairly decent job of keeping us out. These corners, I know we get shit for them, let's be honest. Set piece FC, we get the comparisons with Stoke, that happens. But this broke the game open for us, right? This is what allowed us to go and score 5 by just getting that first half goal and getting it's a really good header from Timber. It's a really good delivery from Declan Rice, but it's more than that. It's a reliable source of goals from Arsenal. I saw something that Arsenal have scored 33 goals from corners since the start of the 23-24 season. The next highest is Liverpool with 20. 13 better in the same time period as Liverpool, who, are not a bad side, I'll have you know, and we'll probably feel a little bit of that next weekend. So look, it's a really reliable source of goals, and I think Leeds had been doing a decent job of forcing us into that U-shaped football, all the passing around, and not really feeding Gyokeres. As soon as that goes in, Leeds have to change their game plan. And that's the thing, isn't it? We suffered too much last year from I guess the issues of game state where you aren't able to break a game open, and maybe you struggle and you slog away, or you only get one goal, and the other team always think they have a chance. Whether that's sitting in or hitting you on the counter attack, they always think there's a moment. And if Leeds had got to half time, I think they would have been very, very pleased if they got there at 0-0. But obviously the corner does a really good job. It's a fantastic header from Timber, wonderful technique, and Timber's involved again for the second goal. This now really is one thing that I think you can see the summer of work coming through, because we've been good at corners for a while, right? But the summer of work coming through, we so rarely last year turned high turnovers into a chance, into a shot. And for the second goal, just before half time, we saw Declan Rice win that ball back. It ends up with Zubamendi. One quick pass to Timber, one quick pass to Saka down the line. First time finish. And quite quickly, we turned a high turnover into not just a chance, but obviously a chance for Bukayo Saka, which is the favourable person in our team for the chance to fall to. A wonderful finish from him. I mean, he's got so good at finishing off his right foot, hasn't he? That was something he added probably 2 seasons ago, and because he was injured so much of last year, I think we've forgotten just how good he is. An absolutely wonderful finish from Bukayo, but for me, it was much more than that. It was the high turnover turned into a chance, and look, in that scenario, I think there's a kind of thing in sports about being able to smell the moment, know when it's the right time to execute something, and really, really elite players in team sports or athletes in individual sports, they know the moments. They know the moments to put the foot on the gas, and that is a moment right there. Arsenal, if we go in 1-0 up, we're probably happy, but not like delighted. 2-0 up with crucially a goal from open play as well. We have the corner to kind of bust the dam, but then we also have the open play goal, get those nerves settled, make sure everything's steady, and make sure Leeds really don't feel like they've got a way back into the game at all, But for me, like I say, just they sniffed it out, they felt the moment, and it was Zubamendi, really quick ball, Timber, really quick ball, no kind of like, let's try and keep this now that we've won it in a dangerous area. Let's try and keep it. Let's try and make sure that we manage the final third space. No. Get it to your best player. Get it to him quickly and give him a chance. And Bukayo Saka has that, in his locker all day long. Just after half-time, we found another superstar. And I am so delighted for this man, Victor Gyokeres, to get off the mark. Really answered a lot of the critics from last week, I thought, yesterday. He has shown in both games, I think, so far, a real willingness to go and fight, a real willingness to go and run the channels, fight for the ball, learn how to press. I don't think he really has that nailed yet. And Arteta said that in his previous post-match press conference, didn't he? So he hasn't got those things nailed yet, and I think you can see he is not yet a quote-unquote Arsenal player. And I said this to my wife, who was watching the game with me. He doesn't feel like an Arteta signing. Arteta goes and signs classy players who are big. I mean, Gyokeres is big, but most of them can really take care of the ball, And Gyokeres kind of looks like his touches just aren't fantastic. They're not like silky smooth, or he's not like able to turn on a dime, but what he is an absolute battering ram. He proved it with this goal here. It's just a hopeful ball down the line from Calafiori, a position that Arsenal probably were in loads and loads of times last year, and we probably can't think of any of them off the top of our head. I certainly can't, because we were just never very good at turning that sort of thing into a goal. And Gyokeres got in behind, got on the ball. He's not in a position of danger though, where he is really. A good, very, very good defence would see him out, stop him from coming inside, but he showed determination, pace and physical ability, and just that confidence, that raw, desire to get to goal. He goes inside the 2 Leeds defenders. He's beaten them very easily, to be fair. I think they've both got to look at themselves. I think it was Bogle and one of the centre-backs got to look at themselves in that moment. But look, Gyokeres is taking them on. He's making them make those mistakes. And he does really, really well. And I think it's a smart finish down to the inside of the keeper and the near post. The keeper's probably expecting him to try and rattle it far post and really put some power through it. It's quite a clever finish. And look, Gyokeres needed a goal. He needed a goal so that we weren't going into the Anfield game with all this narrative around him. So really delighted for him. Just a hopeful ball over the top. Nothing turned into something. And that is massive. I think, in these 3 goals, you can really see almost a kind of development of Arsenal of like, yes, we've got our set piece goal. We know all about that. We know that that's a really useful tool for us, and we know it's something that we have relied upon. Great, we've got our set piece goal. All of a sudden, we're turning a high turnover into a chance. That's fantastic. Something we really weren't able to do much last year. And then the 3rd goal, our brand new striker is doing a fantastic job of taking absolutely nothing and making a goal out of it and wrapping the game up absolutely without doubt. So look, I think really interesting to see that and get the kind of narrative of Victor Gyokeres back. That came in the 48th minute. We had the Timber goal on the 56th minute. So Timber is now 2 goals, 1 assist, rightly the man of the match. It was another corner. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it was just a kind of scramble. Leeds should do better. They don't. Saliba's kind of keeping it alive. It ends up with Calafiori and Timber. Timber's the man who gets his leg to it, and it's a simple goal. But after that, we really did have quite a moment, didn't we? Because, again, I'm not talking about the injuries yet, but it felt like there was some positives, some negatives. Eze had signed, and there was a lot of narrative going on yesterday. A lot to consider and go with. But Mikel Arteta, in all of that chaos and everything that was going on, he turned to his bench and he showed faith, a huge amount of faith in Max Dowman. I mean, this kid is 15. He's the 2nd youngest Premier League player ever after our own Ethan Nwaneri. And I just can't believe it, I really can't believe that this lad... I saw him on the bench and I thought, cool, he's on the bench. Maybe if we're killing him, he'll get 5 minutes at the end. That'll be great for him to get his first touches. This lad got half an hour of Premier League football at 15. I could not believe how early he came on. Maybe it was slightly forced because of the, you only get 5 substitutes, but only 3 substitute windows in the Premier League. And we'd already used two of them, taking off Odegaard, taking off Saka. And maybe it was forced because Arteta knew he wanted to do the Miles Lewis-Skelly change, knew he wanted to do the Mosquera change and get the fullbacks off. So he had to do Dowman with them at that time. Maybe it was forced, but maybe he planned to give him 30 minutes. And when he came on, I think I've seen him look more dangerous and more comfortable in the pre-season games. But for a Premier League game, for his very first Premier League game, this made no sense to me how good he looked, how confident he was on the ball, how quickly his teammates were willing to give him the ball as well. That was one thing that I really didn't see coming, and the talent that we might have in this man is unbelievable. He started to get to grips. He won 1 free kick running up alongside Goodmanson, and I thought he did very, very well in that moment. But to be honest, we were 4 up at the time. I wasn't really expecting him to come on and do anything other than get a seat at the table, feel confident, start to feel it out. And wow, what a run at the end of the game to win that penalty. It's a clear penalty, steps on his toe before catching the trailing leg. He really does have fantastic balance, and I think this is something that you look at all of the recent Hale Enders, and I'm going to include Emil Smith-Rowe in this. Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, and Max Dowman. They all have this wonderfully low centre of balance. They're fantastic at running at people. They use their bodies really intelligently. Something going on in that academy, and some of the coaching is really, really impressive. Doing a very, very good job down at Hale End. He just tore the Leeds defence to shreds, really, with the way he was willing to run at them and willing to take on chances, not necessarily goal-scoring chances, but, the chances where you're like, I might beat my man down here, or I might be able to win a free kick that way. He just, in that moment, got the ball and made sure he got inside the box, and from there, he's devastating. We've seen him win so many penalties. It's becoming almost a trademark for him, which is bizarre, trademark at 15, but whatever. He did a really good job, and then obviously, Gyokeres tucks it away, 2 goals for the Arsenal. Eze signs, Dalman debut. We've seen Madueke have some good moments. Mosquera's got on. Wanyeri's had some good moments when he's got on. Timber's had a fun afternoon. Our two centre-backs look wonderful. Calafiori looked wonderful as well. It's a fantastic afternoon for the Arsenal, minus the injuries. So I'm going to have a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the injuries. I'm going to do stars and underpars. Then I'm going to talk about the injuries. So I will be back in one moment. Sorry for interrupting everyone, but I am on a mission and I need your help. I'm trying to get Arsenal Unfiltered into the ears of as many people as possible. And the best way that you can help me do that is by going and leaving a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts at. That really, really helps me grow the podcast and allows more people to hear the Arsenal Unfiltered coverage 3 times a week. So if you would be so kind to go and leave a review wherever you get your podcast from, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Arsenal Unfiltered. This is the match review episode of Arsenal 5, Leeds 0. I've taken you through the goals and the Eze announcement at the start of the game as well in the first half. I'm going to very quickly do stars and underpars before we move on to some of the bad news from yesterday. The Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard injuries. Let's do stars and underpars first. Obviously, I've already spoken a little bit about Max Dalman. I would give him one of the stars. I think it's really important to recognise the occasion that he was going into a Premier League game. No matter if you're 4-0 up at home and cruising, a Premier League game is huge. Absolutely huge. To step foot on a Premier League, on a Premier League pitch and have a Premier League appearance for any footballer of any age is simply incredible and should be anyone who achieves that should receive massive congratulations. To do that at 15 and come on and impact the game by winning a penalty, just incredible. So definitely Max Dalman. And I want to give a shout out for one player who I don't think will get much of a shout out for yesterday's performance, but I felt he really did deserve one. Look, Jurrien Timber, absolutely, he gets a star. Bukayo Saka, Victor Gyokeres, goal scorers, they get a star. I think Zubimendi was wonderful yesterday as well. The two centre-backs, really, really good. But for me, someone who, over pre-season and the start of this season, is growing into his position more and more and looks to be becoming a real weapon for us is Ricardo Calafiori. I write notes during the games. I cannot tell you how many times that I wrote down something akin to great run from Calafiori or Calafiori looking dangerous. Calafiori in a great position. This kind of left-back maverick that Mikel Arteta is willing to deploy, whether it's Zinchenko going inverted, Marzo Skelly going inverted, or Calafiori bombing forward and being this second striker come third winger. I love it. I love how unpredictable it is, and Ricardo Calafiori is adding so much to it. He's got this sense for timing. He's got this sense for running forward, providing his presence in an area that's going to be very, very difficult to defend against. I think he really could be a big difference maker this year, a big difference maker. It feels like he's got the shirt from Miles. He's got it back. Miles is going to play tons of football this year. I promise you that. We are not seeing the end of Miles Lewis-Skelly, but I think the conversation probably at Miles' contract renewal during the summer will have been, look, you played a lot more than we expected to last season and you did a fantastic job. We can't ask that of you again. And we shouldn't, because we have a £42 million left back, around as well, and he's ready to play as much as you are. It very much feels like we're going to get a job share at both right back and left back this year. We're obviously really hoping Ben White is back soon and can do that job with Jurrien Timber. But Arteta played Mosquera there and he looked okay at right back. And Calafiori and Marzo Skelly are going to do the same at left back. They are going to share those minutes. But for me, it just feels like Calafiori has the step up, the edge, the first name on the, not the first name on the team sheet, but you know what I mean. He is first in that pecking order at left back. I just thought he was wonderful yesterday. He got himself an assist. You could argue he got 2 assists. But the assist for Victor Gyokeres' goal was the main one I was thinking of. I just thought he was really dangerous, really fun to watch as well. You've got to remember, we've been crying out for kind of attacking creativity, attacking ingenuity, And Ricardo Calafiori gives us tons of that from left back. So he gets my major star of the day. I think, not because I think he was man of the match. I think you could make an argument for Timber or Gyokeres as man of the match. Zubamendi, Dalman really had good games as well. But Calafiori, just because I don't think people will talk about him too much. Right, let's do the bad news. Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. I mean, it feels deja vu-y, doesn't it? Really not good. We've had Ben White. We've lost Ben White to an injury. We've lost Kai Havertz to an injury. We still really don't know much information about either of those. We don't know when they're going to be back. The Kai Havertz one seemed like it was a major injury, the way it was reported on, in the sense that Arsenal will be willing to go back into the transfer market to respond to the Kai Havertz injury. So you're thinking, well, it's not a week out then, is it? It's got to be a number of weeks, if not months. So that's super disappointing. I love Kai Havertz. I think he's a brilliant player. So that's bad enough. That was bad enough. To see Martin Odegaard get, I'm not going to blame the Leeds player here. It was a very fair challenge. But to get hit in that challenge and hurt as the result of the landing, it felt like, such bad luck. Last year we lost Martin Odegaard when he was on a Norway game to a really innocuous challenge. Very unlucky the way they stood on his foot and it bent his ankle in a certain direction. It feels like the same thing here. He's been hit in a 50-50 shoulder barge. I don't think the Leeds player has done too much wrong. He probably mistimes it. It is a free kick, but I'm not looking at it going, "What?" He's done something wrong. Martin Odegaard just lands really, really unfortunately, and bang. We don't know what he's done. We don't know what he's done. He could have sprained his AC joint. I really hope he didn't dislocate the shoulder and it goes straight back in. Because Theo Walcott was talking on Sky Sports about how that can keep happening after one incident of it. Really not good. But for me, the Martin Odegaard one is less concerning. I thought Ethan came on and had a really good game. We've obviously signed Eberechi Eze as well. And crucially, something like that, the shoulder injury, typically a shorter time frame out. Very difficult to run when you've got a sprained shoulder or a strained shoulder or something like that. Very, very difficult to run and stay out on balance. And I think that's why Arsenal had to take him off. But it's also something that recovers a lot quicker. So I think we've got the depth that we need to cover Odegaard, and his injury is probably less significant. The issue is the Bukayo Saka one. He was racing away with the ball, ended up giving it to Calafiori, covered half the pitch at full speed with a Leeds defender on his back. Again, not the Leeds defender's fault, but he's just engaged in a little bit of tussling for the ball, and it felt like at the very last moment, he stopped and pulled up, and that hamstring went again. I should say, not the same hamstring as last time. So it was the right hamstring last time where he injured it against Crystal Palace and required surgery. He was reaching for a right-footed cross. This time, we didn't see him immediately go there, but when he was on the floor getting treated, we saw him holding the high part of that left hamstring. So not the hamstring he had surgery on, the high part of the left hamstring. This one is an issue because Bukayo Saka in that game against Leeds just proved how valuable he is. That level of finishing, he wasn't really in the game up until that point. Timber put him through, bang, goal. He's just that good. And I think with Victor Gyokeres, he could start to develop a bit of a relationship there. And look, I don't think I'm being biased or I don't know, overhyping this front three, but Saka, Gyokeres and Eze gives you all sorts of problems. And I think a lot of defences in the Premier League would look at that and worry. A lot of teams would look at that and worry. So it's so disappointing to lose him again. Look, if this is a grade 1 to grade 2 tear or strain or something like that, it's not going to be that bad. It could be 6 weeks. That could be what we're looking at. If this is something more serious again, we have a real problem with Bukayo Saka. I'm telling you that because you can't have in such a short period of time to such significant injuries not have long-term ramifications. It just won't happen. There will be issues based on that. So we have to pray that this is just not something Mikel Arteta said in his post-match press conference that that Saka had felt something, so that's significant. I don't think he was referring to the significance of the thing he felt. I think he was referring to the fact that Bukayo regularly plays through knocks, scrapes, bruises, and for him to pull up and say something to the physio and say, come and get me off, it's significant enough for Bukayo to, he is injured. This isn't just, a bit of a knock. I think that's what Arteta's saying. Arteta was saying, this isn't just a knock because he said something. If he hadn't have said something, it might have just been a knock. I think that's what he meant. But they just will not know the extent yet. And the very optimistic, very, very optimistic side of me says, look, he might miss the Liverpool game, but we'll get him back within the next chunk of fixtures after the international break. The more pessimistic side of me says we will be lucky to have him back before kind of November. And isn't that heartbreaking? When we've brought so well in the summer, we've added all this depth, and we're going to lose our star man again. That's the one that really has me worried. I'm going to touch wood and say, let's hope it isn't serious, and hopefully we will get some updates soon so we can all stop stressing. This is why you sign Eberechi Eze, though. This is why you sign Noni Madueke. This is why you bring players like Ethan Nwaneri through your academy, because you can deal more easily with Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka going down in the same game. It's not going to be easy, but if this... Well, it did happen last year. I don't know why I was saying if this had happened last year. It did happen last year. We're much better set up to deal with it now. And look, a front three against Liverpool of Madueke, Eze and Gyokeres is still pretty good. And I think that could still cause them some issues. I really do. So we will have to see. Just looking ahead to Liverpool very, very quickly before I wrap up, because I know I've gone a little bit longer than usual. I guess there is a chance that Eze plays in the 10. There's a chance that Nwaneri plays in the 10. There are a lot of options. I would not be surprised to see Madueke, however, on the right wing. He looked much more comfortable when he went out there. I think he's still learning that left wing role that Mikel Arteta has penciled in for him. He looked a lot more comfortable when he went out to the right wing, which is obviously a positive. I think it's much more likely we see him there and Martinelli return into the side, and then Eze or Nwaneri in the 10. Whether Eze will be ready for that, I don't know. He's obviously fit enough. He's been playing for Palace. But is he ready in terms of Arsenal perspective, Arsenal aspects? I don't know. We will do a preview podcast, and hopefully we'll be able to time it so we can do it after the Arteta press conference and see what we know about Odegaard, see what we know about Saka, about Havertz. So we will bring you that next week. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it there. Obviously, Eze coming, brilliant news. Victor Gyokeres getting off the mark, brilliant news. 5-0 win. Max Dowman cameo. Fantastic afternoon, but just marred by those two injuries that, God, sour taste in the mouth, isn't it? It would have been the perfect afternoon. I really hope this isn't happening again. I really hope that the S&C coaches have done their job over the winter and we aren't staring down the barrel of another horrible, horrible season where we're just wishing that we had our players to prove what we can do. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's the wish that we could go out there and show our full selves, our full potential. We've just not been allowed to do it now for so long. And it felt like this year we might be able to show our full potential. And already it feels like we might not be allowed to do it. But cross your fingers, touch wood, all of that sort of stuff. And just pray that Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard and Kai Havertz are not out for a significant amount of time. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Like I said at the start, if you've enjoyed this episode or any episode, please make sure you follow so that you get these episodes into your podcast feed 3 times a week for absolutely nothing. All that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.